Is there something that, over the course of your career that kind of got you interested in coaching?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was just the number of bad managers that I've worked for, and I put emphasis on managers. They're not leaders. Leaders is it's a catchphrase, but very few people are really leaders.
Oh, no one's there. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the CM Mentors podcast. My name is Matt Graves. My co-host is Kyle Grandell. What's up, Kyle?
Hey, doing great, Matt. How you doing?
Good. And this week we got Josh McMahon. What's going on, Josh?
Hey, Matt, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
This week I thought I was gonna ban you from the podcast when you show up with an LSU Tiger hat. I was gonna wear my A&M hat just to one up you, but I had to wear my Little League coach's hat because this week we're talking all about coaching, and so I don't know what the hell I'm doing, so I thought it'd be fun. For those that don't know you, Josh, you want to give us a little background on yourself?
Yeah, I'm been in construction for most of my life. I'm in my early 40s, so I started in construction probably around 16 as a summer intern doing stucco 3 flights up on a scaffold and sanding the foam and all that nastiness, and then looking for foam stretchers and board stretchers and other crap that doesn't exist, the typical hazing. And for whatever reason, I was hooked. I loved it, man. So I've been doing construction since I was 16. I got into heating and air work out of high school, and I progressed very quickly. And I got up from, maybe $5 an hour up to $12 an hour. And this is late 90s. And $12 an hour at the time was not bad money. But I'm looking around at 40-year-old individuals, and they're making $12 an hour. And I said, I got to do something different. This isn't going to cut it. I wanted to go to school, but my parents, there was no plan for me to go to school. There's no plan for paying for it or any of those options. And I was quickly discouraged from going to school. So I joined the military, right? You go to construction or the military or college. Those are your 3 options. And I went into the military, and I was a Navy Seabee for 5 years. So I did construction for the Navy. I got to fly to Italy and Japan and do construction in the Navy. So it was amazing stuff. It was a lot of learning, a lot of drinking, very similar to what you guys do when you go to college.
Except I didn't get to build anything cool.
No, probably not. So we definitely built some cool stuff. And
what were y'all building?
We were building a dispatch building in Japan, and
Okay.
I swear this building's foundation could have held a skyscraper. Like, it was so over-engineered. This is a 1-story building. Like, it could have been a 12 by 20 inch footer, poured walls or block, and you get after it, right? I mean, this thing, the foundation alone was probably like 3 foot wide. The footer was 3 foot wide by 2 foot deep. Like, way overdone for a 1-story building. But that's the government. That's what I loved about the government. We've got money, you got to spend it, right? Spend it or lose it. So it was great, though, because I got that experience, and the great thing that I got in that was teamwork. I was a plumber and HVAC by trade, but you're not doing plumbing all the time on a building, as you both well know. And you're not doing HVAC. So when you're doing a footer in the Seabees, everybody's a concrete guy. Everybody ties rebar. Everybody is in the hole doing what they have to do. And I just thought, this is life, man. This is the way it should be. We were all in it together. You had your experts who were your crew leaders for a specific activity. You had your project manager. You had your superintendent who was on the job. And granted, that wasn't our titles in the Navy, but once you understand how a project works, you had all of those roles. And you got to lean on those other individuals. So I learned a lot from my time in the Navy and camaraderie. And I brought that to the outside with me. And I got into home building probably around 2006. Which was a good time to get in home building.
It was a good time. A couple years later was a bad time.
A couple years later was terrible, right? But I came into it as a customer service rep or a warranty tech, and I really learned how to fix everybody's screw-ups. How to communicate with customers, how to communicate with trades, the scheduling, like the real basics in the foundation. And as I progressed, but really what happened is the economy progressed. People started losing their jobs and going away. And then they said, you want to be a superintendent? you can build these houses and you can build this community. I was like, damn right I do. I'm ready. I wasn't ready. I had no freaking clue what I was doing. And all the people who did know were gone. They were let go. They quit on their own, whatever the case may be. So I had to learn very quickly on the fly. And I'll tell you, this quote stuck with me forever, and this has been 15 years, 18 years maybe. The VP of construction says, my leadership style is to give you just enough rope to hang yourself. I said, I'm sorry, what? What does that even mean? And I look back on that, and it was like that was the pivotal moment in my career that I knew I wanted to get the heck out of this business. And as I continued growing, I'm like, I really love this business because I want to be better than that guy. I want to coach and I want to help the next generation. And I want to make sure that you guys go out there and crush it. And you bring in new talent that crushes it and does far better than everybody else. That's what I want my legacy to be. So it was from that experience and that jackass that could have derailed my entire career, but instead he catapulted my career. I went to college after that nonsense. I earned my bachelor's degree. I went on to get my master's degree at the great LSU.
You could have picked a better school, but we'll let that slide.
All we do is create national champs.
All right, fair enough.
No, so my journey has been really on that, and I've really leaned heavier as I got more into leadership roles on really coaching and grooming. The projects don't bring me a lot of excitement anymore. The homes, the customers certainly don't bring us excitement. But coaching and seeing people's eyes light up when they get it, and seeing them do well, brings me more joy than anything else in this business. Like, the money stopped mattering to me, years ago. But when I can make an impact on another person, oh, dude, that's all the money I need. I wish I could put that in the bank so I could continue my lifestyle, but I'm happy, and that's ultimately what's important. So that's a lot more than a little bit about my background.
Yeah, it's funny you talking about you love the federal government because if they have the money, you got to spend the money. When I first got out of school, the first company I worked for was a private company, but it was like 100% federal work or 98% federal work. We did a little bit of private, but not much. And like real quick, like I saw all the waste in the federal government, like the way the contracting. I was like, I'm like 23 years old, like. And like I'm sad of being a taxpayer because like I'm just like seeing all the stupid waste going out the window, and a lot of it's probably like y'all were building. They probably had a one-size-fits-all foundation, and it's going to work for this building or it's going to work for every building. You know what I mean? If you need to build a 5-story building, same thing. And they don't opt. I don't know. Maybe things are different today. That was 13 years ago, maybe. But I imagine it's just as bad or worse today. But nothing was optimized, and it was just the amount of red tape. I hated it. I hated it so much.
Well, I'll go back to that quick story on that dispatch building. They brought in kind of the people who oversee each battalion just to check on the progress. And the feedback was, you guys are way too far into the project. You need to slow down. You need to leave something for the next group to do. So to your point, I don't think the federal government's ever going to change because there's nothing holding them accountable, right? Like, I joke with my wife about the home we're building, and it's like our budget has to balance. We're not the federal government. They'll just go print more money. They're fine.
You can't just do that? You can't just, or lose however many trillions of dollars?
I can print it. I just don't know how many years I can do in prison.
Hey, Josh, a question that I have for you is, what was one of your biggest things that you noticed transitioning from building for the military to the public sector?
Yeah.
Anything that really stood out to you that were big changes, like, industry-wise or?
Easy answer. It was
other than everything.
Yeah, the biggest thing was the camaraderie. It was the teamwork. In the civilian sector, still today, more so today, we don't care about the next trade. And I say that, and I know that sounds harsh, but for the most part, we don't care. If the guy just got done painting the wall and I've got to lean my stuff against the wall, I don't care that it's going to damage his wall and he's got to come back and paint it. That's the biggest disconnect. And I swear when I was younger, it wasn't that way. We cared about each other. We looked out for each other. But I could be wrong, right? I mean, maybe it's always been this way. Just as I get older, I get more cynical. But honestly, I think that's the biggest difference is that the military, I didn't have to like you. But if you were in trouble, I was going to do everything I could to help you.
Well, no, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, Josh. And at least when I was still in the trades, which is eight or more years ago now, it's been a while, but it was still electricians trying to get there first before the plumbers, before the HVAC guys, try to get our work in and get out of there, so it's not our problem anymore.
That is, and you know, it's still happening, and I don't know if it's just trying to help them better understand the big picture and the process and why HVAC and plumber has to go before electrical. I don't know, and as I walk jobs, I'm constantly trying to educate them and help them understand the bigger picture and why we're doing things. You know, explaining the why. Because ultimately, I'm like, I want you to be the best plumber, the best electrician. Or I want you to get tired of that and come over to my side and build houses with me. But I want you to be a best version of yourself when you do.
We'll just explain to them that electricity can run uphill and plumbing can't.
Yeah, I don't think they understand that.
Well, that's why it's so much cooler.
Yeah, exactly. I think if I could do it again, I'd be an electrician because I hate sweeping too.
Why are you guys hating on electricians so much? Come on.
It's too
Borrow it
easy.
amongst yourself. Man, I don't know how many times I worked for a mechanical contractor and I would see a superintendent screaming at the electrician with the sawzall in his hand. He's going to cut down his whole rack of conduit because he's in the wrong spot because we BIM modeled everything. And I was like, geez, like we're about to have a fist fight here. And so
Yeah, and
it's fun stuff.
It's weird because it's like, why aren't we having more coordination meetings? Why are we not having more? I would even say like a business development meeting. Hey, let's get all the MEPs together. This is the space that we're going to invade. This is what we need to do. This is our mission. How do we do this? Who's on first? Who's on second? Where do you need to be? How do we help each other? Because what's the goal? The goal is to make money. That's all we're here to do is make more money. So how do we make more money? We work with each other.
How many times have you seen one trade make a bunch of money and everybody else lose money? Never. If everybody makes money or everybody loses money, usually.
I think probably most of the time everybody loses money. I think everybody loses and I think the main cause of that is the blame game. It's Kyle's fault, it's Matt's fault, it's the plumber's fault, it's his fault. And it's like, man, like what part is yours? What part could you have done better? And
Right.
we're closing out a house now that the customer has burned us every which way, and a lot of it is because our paperwork wasn't dialed in. But the trades got into this mode of it's everybody else's fault. It's the superintendent's fault. I'm like, you guys are all going to go out of business if you keep doing business this way. You're killing yourselves.
Yeah, if you have no accountability for how you're doing your own business, you just point the finger at the superintendent or whatever. Like, I mean, we've been there. I mean, on a bigger commercial project, I don't have any residential experience, but on a bigger commercial project, really, you almost got to have the GC really coordinating things and really outlining it. And I've seen really good ones where they get everybody on board and they rally the troops and everybody has a plan and and it's very smoothly executed, right? Like, all right, we're going to build from the top down, ducts can go up top, then we're going to start building down like that. And we're going to go in a flow, right? We're going to go to sector 1, sector 2, sector 3. And I've also been in a project where we built it was a hotel, and they had a big commercial kitchen, and they said, all right, on Monday we're starting in the kitchen, ready, go. And then everybody showed up, and like the electrician is trying to go, the plumbers are trying to go, and everybody's just on top of each other, and it was just like absolute train wreck. And I was like, guys, what are you doing?
You know, I didn't tell you this, but I did some federal contracting as well when I got out. And I went to Parris Island, South Carolina, at the Marine Corps barracks. And I'm taking over a project for another guy. And he'd been on the job for probably 6 months. And I don't think they'd build $1 million yet in 6 months' time. So after walking the job for probably 2 or 3 weeks and just really getting a lay of the land and figuring out what the heck is going on, I bring all of the trade foremen into the trailer. And I'm like, guys, we're way behind schedule and we're way over budget. And the plumber, he's like, let me guess, it's the plumber's fault. I said, nope, it's our fault. It's the builder's fault. The general contractor. We screwed this up. This is what happened. And I was like, this is what I need. I'm like, I need you to build me $300,000 this month. I need you to build me $250,000. I need you to build me this. And I'm like, now tell me, how do we start doing that? So I started speaking to them in their language because what are we here for? It's money. So when I started talking to him in terms of money and then figuring out, okay, you're going to work this swing, you're going to work this swing, you're going to work this swing, and then we started chewing away at it, I instantly got their buy-in because I want to help them be successful. Like, right, I just flipped the script. It would have been easy to blame everybody else. But I was screw it, it's my fault. I did it.
Take that. That's what's best people got to do, is just take that excuse away from them, and then, all right, it's screwed up. How are we going to fix it? It doesn't matter how it got screwed up.
Absolutely.
Let's just go fix it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and big theme there, Josh, that you're speaking to is having that leadership buy-in and top down mentality of, hey, it starts with us, and then we gotta show that example. We gotta lead it. We gotta give these troops something to rally behind, and that usually means collaboration.
Yes.
I mean, we're all here together.
I think that's the key, and I've seen several trades on LinkedIn who speak up and say, why doesn't the GC go first? You're the leader. Why aren't you going first? Why is it always everybody else's responsibility? That's exactly right. Whether it be home building or general contracting, we are in charge. I mean, I think people lose sight of this. I only make money when you put work in place. I don't add any value, right? My value is the coordination and getting everybody to work together and making sure we're avoiding pitfalls. That's my money making.
Really, home builders too, because a home builder really doesn't make any money until it's a final product and they can hand the keys over.
Oh, for sure, man. And that's a brutal business, because the margins are so tight in home building. Like, everybody thinks that we're crushing it. We're making 35-40%. I mean, I worked for a builder not long ago that was break even was 13 to 15, and we were closing homes at 10. And it's just a matter of time before we go under, right? Wow. You got to make major changes. But you got to accept it. You got to own that problem. And what that builder was failing to do, they didn't own any problems. It was easy to just blame everybody else. It's everybody else. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's your fault. And I'm like, yep, you're right. It's my fault. I'm going to go ahead and move on so you can go find somebody else to blame. Disappointing.
And that too is like, people. I'm a big believer in patterns, and so like they think, well, we'll do better on the next one. We'll do better on the next one. Well, unless you have a plan of how to do better on the next one, you do the same shit, you're gonna get the same result. So,
wait, that's a great point. We all love to say, I'm gonna do better on the next one. I'm gonna get back in shape January 1st, 2024. I'm gonna do better tomorrow. Why not right now? Just flip the switch. Even in the middle of a build, you can flip the switch. As easy it is to turn my lights on and off, I can do the same thing on this project. I can do the same thing with my life. There is no next one. It's right now. You wait for the next one, you might not be here.
That's true. I love that. That's something like, I've always said, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I finally, in the last year, really started trying. It snowballed into a podcast now and this newsletter, but I've really started trying to make changes and I have a million ideas, and I've never done anything with all of them, right? And until finally I'm like, I just need to start doing stuff instead of just saying I want to do or I'm gonna do it. Like, just start doing it. That's
actually great, Matt. So I set the year out with a theme. Like, last year was all about growth, and this year was all about intentionality. And yes, I did look it up before I said the word on my podcast, but it does exist. So, Carolyn, if you do happen to listen to this, it's still a word. But I wanted to be extremely intentional about anything I said I wanted to do. I wanted to start my own home building business. I'm doing it. I might fail. It might not work, but I'm going after it. I'm going to prove it. I wanted to start a consulting business. These are my two passions. I'm doing it. And again, I might not make money doing it, but I'm going to be intentional about it and not just talk about it and say, Matt, I really want to do this consulting thing. No, now it's, Matt, I'm doing this consulting thing, and this is how it works.
That's like, a lot of people talk about it, but I listen to Gary Vee a lot. I think I've mentioned him on all 10 episodes of this podcast now, but a lot of times he talks about it as like regret. He's like, go to any nursing home and go talk to people about what they regret. They're not going to regret their failures. They're going to regret the things they didn't do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no one regrets, like, oh, well, I tried that and it failed, or I tried that and it fell apart. It was like, people don't regret those things. It's like, well, if I woulda, coulda, shoulda type things is what people really regret when they're on their deathbed. So.
Yeah.
So we've shared enough war stories. I want to get into what we really kind of brought you on is this coaching. It's definitely something I share, I think, a passion with, and that's something we've talked about. I mean, me and you've had a couple phone calls just over the last couple of months, and I've met the presidents of companies and these things, all these big wigs and politicians and stuff, and like, I don't get excited about like going and having like a luncheon with them or doing these sort of things. Is whatever, it's part of the day job.
Yeah.
What I get really excited about is like when an entry level guy comes on the job site and he's like walking around the job site. We're walking around, he's asking a bunch of questions, and I can just see the light bulbs go off in his head. And like, I have all the time in the world for something like that. Somebody who's eager and hungry and wants to learn and is soaking it all in. Man, I'll stay all day. I'll do my actual work tonight on my own time, like just to like spend time with you and help you do that sort of stuff. So, is there something that over the course of your career that kind of got you interested in coaching?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was just the number of bad managers that I've worked for, and I put emphasis on managers. They're not leaders. Leaders is it's a catchphrase, but very few people are really leaders. So the bad managers that I've seen burn out people, where they come into the business, they've got all this potential, and we just run them off. And we run them off with a fake culture, right? Culture is, we're just a party culture, we're drinking, it's an extension of high school, whatever your culture is. Again, it's a buzzword. Here's my biggest one is the core values. I am a military guy, so core values are at my heart. But when you put core values just on the wall for marketing needs, it's disingenuous. So I think for me, it was like, I wanted to invest in those core values, and I wanted to invest everything that I have into those individuals. And I tell people when I recruit them, you might not be here for 2 years. You might not be here for 5 years. I want to help you get wherever your career path is taking you, right? Because Kyle, you weren't always in business for yourself. You worked for the man at one point, but you had aspirations to run your own business and do these things. And did you have the same kind of mentors and coaches along the way that said, I know you're built for self-employment. I'm still going to invest everything I have in you because it'll pay dividends tomorrow. Right? Like,
I actually did. I had some great managers that did those exact things. It's funny you bring that up, Josh.
And that's awesome. And I want to be another one of those great managers that does that. I don't want to be a manager that holds people back and, Matt, you're active on LinkedIn, so you must be looking for another job, right? Or you've got a podcast, so you must be doing something else. And if businesses understood the value that you bring organically to their company, when you put your company name in the headline, they're getting so much organic growth and organic marketing from that, and they're not even paying for it. They just don't know it. And because they're worried about losing something, they almost extinguish anything that you're trying to do. I want to be the opposite of that, and I want to grow other people, and I want to encourage people to be more open and share their thoughts and share their ideas on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever platform you choose, or a podcast.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I guess was kind of helped me with my content is I kind of got to the mindset of like, I want to put something on LinkedIn, and I kind of hope somebody tells me I'm wrong because I want to learn.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
It's like so many people go on there and they're like, I'm the expert and listen to everything I have to say, and they just go in there repeating whatever they Googled, right? Whatever, some blog, they just copy pasted it or, tweak some words. But like, I don't know, most of what I put on there is like, I have some thought. I'm like, man, and it's kind of got traction too, because it's all genuine, it's all authentic. And so, and I'm kind of hoping sometimes somebody tells me wrong or adds to it or kind of tells me where I took a wrong step or I get confirmation that like, okay, this thought was actually, other people are thinking this too. Yeah. So it's been cool.
And I think that's a great feature because my leadership style is to do that, even in a real life setting, right? I'll ask a question that I know is stupid or I know is the wrong question to ask, but it's because I want to engage my people to then like fire back. I want them comfortable disagreeing with me, right? Because too many managers or too many people on LinkedIn or wherever are like, no, this is how it is. How do you know? Like, what perspective gives you the ability to know everything, every situation, every environment, right? I want people to be free thinkers.
Well, and why would you hire anybody else if you knew it all?
Thank you.
I mean, the whole point of having other people is to get more minds on it, to get the best possible information, because you have different people that think differently, have different experiences, and bring different things to the table. That's the best way to go.
It's you listen to everything I have to say and you do exactly what I tell you to do.
Cut it out, man. nobody's laughing at your jokes here.
You're nailing it, Kyle. There's no reason to hire other people if you just want people to do and think the way you think, right? Just go hire laborers. That's what you should hire. But if you're hiring project managers or construction managers, whatever we call them, if you're hiring individuals at that skill level, you want people to have a different perspective. You need new ideas, fresh ideas.
You absolutely do. And kind of going back to your point earlier, Matt, about walking a job site with somebody and you know, kind of talking through things with them and helping them learn, that gets me excited. That's why I'm doing this in the first place, is because it kind of renews my excitement. So, I mean, you know, you get on a project, you get into the, you know, kind of the day-to-day, sometimes it kind of gets a little, I don't want to say boring, that's not the right word to use, but you know what I mean, monotonous.
Yeah.
But then you bring somebody else in, they ask you some questions, you're like, oh yeah, you know what, you're right, I forget how cool this stuff is because I take it for granted. I do it every day. And so it kind of renews that energy for me. That's why I enjoy it.
That's 100% true, because I get the same way after, you know, been on some bigger projects. They may last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and it gets monotonous, right? And I'll say it gets boring, right? But yeah, when somebody fresh face comes in and they're excited and you get to talk about it, and it kind of gets the excitement level back up.
It does, man. It brings back that youthfulness in us. Like, construction is fun, it's new, it's dirty, it's messy. Mm-hmm. And it does get monotonous, and it does get boring. But when you get that new boost of energy, the first time seeing a project, the first time seeing something done in the field, it's with the right energy, man, it boosts me up. And I started my podcast for the exact same reason. I wanted to get more of that out there and help more people know, like, this is a great industry to be in.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back to the coaching thing, because I really we've been going about 30 minutes and like great stories, but I want to nail this. So one of the topics it really was the headline of the podcast, was coaching to promote from within instead of hiring outsiders.
Nice. Yep.
I love that so much, and I think I got that from you. Maybe that's you told me.
You did.
If not, I made it up. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Have you had a lot of experience with people like just keeping people down and hiring people in on top of them, and not really, and talking about culture and all these values? You bring in an outsider, especially into a leadership role, they come with their own values and culture, and they may not be homegrown, you know.
100%. And you know what the problem is with most companies is they have good managers or good people who can move the numbers or who can look at a spreadsheet and have an idea on what's going on, but they're not coaches. They're not going to take the time after hours or whenever to invest in their people. And what I've done in my career is I bring in people with maybe life experience, but not construction experience. And I teach them some really basic stuff. And you know where you start? You just start with a system. What's our system? And what's the system say? What's your daily routine? We got to remember that they don't know all this stuff. So if my daily routine is get to the job, walk every home, walk your job site, however you do it, look at your schedule, update your schedules, communicate with your trades, walk the job again, verify your schedule again, walk the job, lock everything, go home. This is what I need you to do every day. And you set them on that path, they start seeing things. And then here's the other part. Have a journal. I want the new guys and girls to have a journal and write down my question. What is this red stuff that comes out of the caulk gun? What is this? I don't understand. You know, why is the insulation itchy after I touch it, right? Like, write down your questions, no matter how dumb, no matter what it is, because I want you to have all the time you need. Because when I get the opportunity to sit down and I commit time to sit down with them, I want to answer those questions, and I want to help you, maybe not give you the answer, but point you in the direction to go find more information and to help make you better. So that's the key on this coaching thing is, don't give them all the answers. Give them enough to keep their appetite and keep them hungry and keep them coming back for more. And you'll grow those individuals. The individuals who have a high ceiling, you're going to grow them very quickly. And the individuals who don't have a high ceiling, you're still going to grow them, so you're still getting value. It just might take longer to get them up to where you want.
I think the best coaches I've had, the best mentors / coaches I've had, have been the ones that would do exactly what you just said. They kind of push you to be resourceful, right? Because they're not going to be. I'm not always going to be able to call them and say, "Hey, what's this pink stuff in the wall? And why is it itchy?" Those type of questions. But they'll push you, to go figure out. And it doesn't taste like cotton candy. Quit eating it. They kind of force you to be resourceful and go. And it's a day. It's Good Friday. I didn't really have work today. I'm having a good one.
It's good.
But anyway, they help you be resourceful, right?
Yeah.
They help you say, okay, if you have a code question, and they'll say, okay, well, where do you think the codes might be found? It's like, well, I don't know, the code book. Like, what's a code book? How do you read it? And kind of at least get you taught is how to read a code book or how to read a RS means manual, right? If you're trying to do some high level estimating, or just kind of teach you how to use the tool and then give you the tool.
Right.
So
that's exactly right. We're just constantly adding to their toolbox every day, and the bigger their toolbox gets, the more successful they become.
Well, and Josh, I do something similar with my guys when they come on board, too, guys or girls. When they come on board, is we have our kind of our daily routine in place, but we have it arranged by kind of experience level. So when somebody comes on board, what's expected of them day to day is going to be a little less than after they get a year experience, 2 years experience, etc. By the time they're full-fledged construction managers, now I expect them to be on it, hitting all these. Making their own tasks, of course, too, for what's important for the job, but just because it as a general guideline, just very similar along the lines of what you're saying.
I think it's good, and when I think of coaching, I really just think I'm a guide. We're just guiding these individuals towards the answers they need. We're guiding them in the right direction. Like if you think of bowling, right? We're just the bumpers. You're out there playing bowling, you're just whipping it down there, and I'm just the bumper to keep you on the lane, keep you safe. And I'll put people in a position where I know they're going to lose. I know it's going to be a difficult spot. But I am right there as they're going through and they're getting challenged, to build them back up. And I think that's important, because this job does suck at times. You do have to deliver bad news. You do have to deal with bad stuff. The earlier you get comfortable with dealing with that, man, the higher you can go. So it's a guide,
yeah,
really.
Coaching is 100%. And I think coaching too. When I think coach, everything's a sports, at least I do by default.
That's right.
But right now I've been coaching my boys. I got twin boys, and they're playing coach pitch baseball right now. We've been coaching them since they were in T-ball, and I've already seen them progress. Where now they at least know when they hit the ball, they run to first base. That was quite a struggle the first year, right? And then even, we was like, all right, well, that's base 1, 2, 3, and home. We're just getting those basics down. But now it's you see them progress, and so you don't have to hold their hand as much, right?
Right.
And you take a step back, and you give them a little bit more rope to do a little bit more. And now, doing coach pitch, the coaches are still out on the field when they're playing defense, but they hit a ball to the pitcher, and half of them may know to pick up the ball and throw it to first base. The other half, you're still yelling at them, throw to first. But then hopefully next year, you don't have to do that anymore, right? You've kind of given them that other tool. You've kind of at least pointed them in that direction. They kind of know another thing, and you kind of start backing off until, obviously, when they get into, upper little league or into, high school, obviously, they don't need you telling them where to throw the ball or what to do. They know how to play the game. They know how to do their job.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I see coaching. Is if I compare everything to sports. I'm a huge sports metaphor guy, but same thing. It's when you're early on, right? The guy fresh out of college, you're going to need to hold his hand and teach him everything and make sure he doesn't walk underneath a crane holding something up because it's going to fall and smash him. And you just got to they're a walking danger at some point. But you give them a little bit more, and you get a little bit more, and they kind of get their feet under them, and then you kind of back off and kind of help more high level. And so
exactly, you got it.
Well, and it's also important too, I think, Josh, having some structure, like you're saying.
Yes.
Especially when somebody starts a new job, I know this from my own experiences. You're kind of nervous. You're out of your element a little bit. You're kind of walking on eggshells a little bit, trying to figure stuff out. Having a little bit of structure and a little bit of here's your expectations and some touch points, if you will. That also kind of helps with the learning too. Makes somebody a little more comfortable. Makes them open up to you as the guide. I think.
Well, I think that's a great point. As we bring people on, you know what we do really good is we invest everything we have into recruiting. We pay recruiters handsome amounts of money, and we invest heavily. We take them to lunch, we groom, we do all this stuff, and we get people on board, and then we just cut them loose. And you nailed it, Kyle. Like, we've got to be that guide, and we've got to set some structure and really help people on board. And, you know, this is a full team effort. Everybody throughout the company needs to make that individual comfortable. Because, like I said to Matt before we went live, I'm an introvert by nature, even though you wouldn't know that by me talking and being on this. But I'm introverted. I'm very shy when I meet new people, and I don't want to put myself out there. So I'm a little more reserved. So if I join a company and they're all reserved and I'm like, well, maybe I made a mistake. This isn't really for me. Like, they're not even comfortable with me. They recruited me, they wanted me, but they don't really want me. So we've got to really make sure we're setting that up and setting those people up for success, because that's not just junior employees, that's all the way through the ranks. So I love hearing you say that you've got that in place.
I think it's cool too, like you were talking about knowing yourself and the company, knowing your coworkers too. Like, we've done some stuff where you know, we all take personality tests, and like, all right, I know Josh is introverted now, right? So I'm working with him. I know, you know, I may be too loud for him, or I may be too overcoming, and like, I may, you know, those sort of things. And like, you start understanding stuff, and if you realize you're all introverted, like, okay, well, you're not all mad at each other. You just don't want to talk to each other right now. Like,
that's right.
And so your mind doesn't start running because you know who you're working with, and you kind of know what makes everybody tick.
Have you guys done the assessment, the 6 types of working genius yet?
That one, no.
So it's a Patrick Lencioni book. He just wrote this book not long ago. It's probably the best assessment you can do for your teams. And I don't work for Patrick Lencioni yet, so I'm not plugging him for personal benefit. But the value I got from it, super easy read. It breaks down the work into 6 different quadrants, and it says, hey, your genius is 2 of the 6, your competency is another 2, and your frustration is these 2. And what I've learned from that assessment is exactly what Matt's saying when it comes to introverts and people's personality is like, I've got you in a role where I need you to finish strong and get in the details, and that's a frustration for you. I have failed as a leader putting you in that role. I need to move you out of that spot and put you in this spot that's more of an 80% guy. I want you to get my project 80% done, and I'm going to bring in this person who's more geared to tenacity and getting it done, and they're going to finish the job. So it's like, it's not a failure. It's not that you failed. Mm-hmm. It's just not a genius for you. And once I saw that and I saw the results, like, all these questions I've had about myself in my past and where I feel like I have failed or I didn't do as well as I hold myself to. And then I'm like, well, no wonder. You were set up for failure because you're in roles that you shouldn't be in. So 6 types of working genius. Highly recommend you guys checking that out. We're just talking about assessments. And I think when it comes to coaching, having that assessment and understanding who you're coaching really helps you build your coaching plan for that individual.
Mm-hmm. You know, we're talking about coaching. I talking about sports metaphors. I mean, look at a football team, right? If you just take the quarterback and the left guard and switch positions, everyone's going to know real quick they're out of position and they're not doing what they should be doing, right? And same thing. I mean, business is almost the same thing, right? If you got people with different talents and different skills and in the wrong position, then it's the same thing, right? Your quarterback isn't going to throw the ball and catch the ball and run in for the touchdown. You know, you have to have some handoff.
It is the same thing. But in business, I hired you to be a construction manager. That's what you need to do. You should be good at this. Yeah, you can be good as a construction manager at running a job site, building a home, doing these things, but you might be terrible at this, right? You might be terrible at pre-construction stuff. You might be terrible at paperwork. But in a business sense, I hired you to do this. You need to do it. And that's where I think that we just need to switch it up a little bit. Don't be so rigid. Because go back to the sports thing.
I mean, you think about construction manager. What does a construction manager do? He wears a dozen hats. He's got to know finance and quality and safety and, you know, you name paperwork. I mean, the whole construction manager, it's not an accountant where they're just inputting numbers, and I know accountants do more than that, but
You sure?
You know, a construction manager's got to wear I got some accountant friends. I'm not going to throw one under the bus.
I think you just did.
I did air quotes for people that aren't watching.
No, he didn't. By the way, don't listen to him.
I'm gonna have to edit that in. But you don't even know what I'm talking about. Oh, but no, construction management, project management, like you got to know so much stuff.
Yeah.
Like it is such a diverse position. I mean, you got to know legal. You got to know how to read a contract. You got to, I mean, you name it. Like it's such, and some people can't read a contract. Like they open it up and like their eyes gloss over the back of their head. But that may be the guy who needs to come in for pre-construction because he can see the building coming together. He can see it all come together. And then some guy may be real good at scheduling because he understands how the process works. And
That's right.
I think part of coaching too, knowing what people are strong at, and then putting complementary skill sets together to build a great team. That's like what a coach needs to be doing.
That's exactly what you want to do. Is you want to figure out where am I weak, where does my team need additional support, and then don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as this is a team build. When I'm building my teams, I'm thinking of this guy's really good on the front end, right? Everything from the breaking ground to framing, solid, but terrible in the finishes. Terrible. No detail, not organized. But this person is crushing this side. I'm going to team them up. I'm not going to fight it. And then hopefully from that process, like building them as a team, they will get better on the front end and get better on the back end. And then in time, they'll get better and they'll be a complete package. It just takes time. And I shouldn't rush it.
You say something, Kyle?
Well, I was just going to say that kind of goes back, if we want to go full circle for a second here to Josh about talking about earlier with, not rushing it, but investing. I mean, this is all, this whole podcast is about putting some investment out there into the next generations, and that's what they want, and that's what they deserve. I mean, like we talked about earlier, the days of trial by fire, sink or swim, we can do so much better.
You can do so much better, and it's expensive. That method costs us so much freaking money. I hired a superintendent that I knew was going to be my right-hand man. He flew trusses backwards on a freaking house. The framer said I screwed up and flew him backwards. He said, don't worry about it. We'll get it later. That cost us 8 months to go back there and fix that. But it was because I was not creating the right systems and the right boundaries, and where I'm going with that is hiring individuals with no experience or less experience and creating those boundaries and those systems. Those mistakes wouldn't be made, and if they were made, I would show enough empathy that you can bring that to me and we can fix it and we just keep moving on. It's just construction.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he kind of reached out to me on LinkedIn because of, through the podcast and newsletter, all this sort of stuff. He'd kind of been following for a while, and he was basically asking, how can I find a mentor? Because he's like, the company I work for, like, they just basically their philosophy is kind of like that. Just we're going to hire you, we're going to throw you out into the field. And he came from like the trades, and now he was working for a general contractor. So he kind of a lot of stuff carries over, but there's a whole lot more to learn when you come from a trade. He's a project manager for a trade company. Now he's as a general contractor, and he was just like, I want to learn, but I don't even know where to start. And he was just kind of asking me. We had a good conversation about some stuff, but yeah, there's so many companies. Like I think for every, I've said this a bunch of times, and I should probably, I don't know how I could do the math on it, but I think for like every one contractor out there that trains their people really well, has good programs. The good contractors. They'll have programs for entry-level guy, and then they'll have a mid-range, and they'll have executive-level training for every step of your career path. And I think it keeps retention too, because you're always you can see the ladder, and okay, when I get to this step, they're going to train me and groom me to go to the next step, and you constantly have that. But I think for every one of those companies out there, there's got to be 1,000 companies that are like that other one I was just talking about, where they just kind of like, we're going to hire you. You're a project manager. Go get the job done. Like,
I think there's too much of that right now. I think there's more bad companies when it comes to that. And when I was coming up, I was middle management, and I'm like, I'm going to get into the executive ranks. I went and hired an executive coach out of my own pocket. The company wasn't going to invest in me. They weren't going to help pay for additional schooling or certifications. I paid for it out of pocket, and I never regretted it because it did fill in some of the blanks that I had, executive presence and some other things, but. That's where I think companies could really do well is What's your vision as a company? What do you see with your people, and where do they go, and how do you grow into like your next 3 years, your 5 years, your 10 years, right? Because as companies, you say, I don't want to recruit you and you come and be here for a year or 2 years. It's like, okay, that's fair. I don't want to come here for 1 or 2 years. But what's the path? What does it look like? Mm-hmm. What are you going to do for me? Because I know what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to come to work. I'm going to give you my honest 40. I'm going to help you earn your profit. And I'm going to go home and raise my family. But what's in it for me? I need more than just 40 hours a week. And that's where we really got to dial in our vision, really dial in our training program, and understand who we are. Because I think some companies should understand I'm a stepping stone. And I think it's okay.
If they don't want to be that, they need to make some changes to not be that.
You have to make changes. You can't just say, right, I think it's too easy to say, oh, they're job hoppers, they just leave. Okay, fine. But you're good employees, you're good workers, they're still finding jobs. So that negative connotation doesn't mean shit. Be better.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds more like an excuse than an actuality, because I'm a firm believer in the same thing, that if somebody wants to stay, I'm going to give them a good environment and they're going to want to stay. And if it's not working out, then it's either on their side or it's my side. And if it's my side and I start to see the numbers going that way, there's no denying that data. I mean, that tells me that I'm the one screwing up here.
Yeah, and that's great perspective, because at the end of the day, it's business. I'm running my business personally. My household is a business. You're running a business. Your company's running a business. We're all running a business. And some of us do a really damn good job at running our business, and some of us are miserable.
So this podcast is really, created to be a resource kind of for the next generation. So if, somebody that maybe next generation, 25 years old, or maybe even somebody like yourself, maybe had like a career in the Army, and because I've seen a lot of that too. There's a lot of people coming out of the military and now are like, what am I going to do? And then they find their way into construction. But so kind of the next generation, no matter how they find their way here, and they're looking to find a mentor, and maybe they're not getting the resources at work. Do you have any advice on how to find one or how to go about that?
I have no idea. It's, I'm just joking. I mean, I think it's really difficult trying to find mentors and find people who are genuine and authentic. I think the biggest place to start, in my opinion, is LinkedIn. Who's sharing content? Engage with their content. See if you like these individuals, right? Because I'm willing to give myself for anybody. If Matt, you reached out and said, "Hey, this is the problem I'm having," I'll be like, "Let's talk through it. What can we do to help you?" Right? Because I have the Gary Vee mindset. I want to give it all away for free, knowing that or trusting that it'll come back tenfold, and I'm not worried about it. So I'm that way, and there are so many other people out there that are that way, that I can call right now when we get off this podcast and say, I'm really struggling with this, or I'm having a hard time hiring, or I'm having a hard time retaining. What are you seeing? What are you doing? And I find a lot of those connections from LinkedIn, because I can get a good sense of who you are, the more content you put out. And then if I engage with your content and you re-engage, then it's somebody I'm more interested in associating with, instead of just people who put something out there, you engage with them, and then you never see them again. Like, they're just putting out and they walk away. Like, you can just get an AI or something to do that for you, right? Go find the real people. So I think my suggestion is find people on LinkedIn and reach out to them and see what they say.
That was kind of the advice I gave this guy, was because I told him the same thing. I was like, man, for like the longest time, I was against having a mentor. I didn't want to have a quote mentor, because one, I wanted to be resourceful, and like I wanted to, like, out of egotism or whatever, like I just wanted to figure it out myself, and like that's just kind of the way my mind works anyway. Like I want to figure it out, but what I would do is like I'll take a little bit of piece from this person, a little bit of piece from this person, and kind of just put it all together and kind of create my own sense of reality and a little bit of tidbit and how I felt it played into me. But I didn't want somebody saying like, what I thought a mentor was like, sit down, I'm gonna tell you all the ways you're screwing up and how you need to be better.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want that. But again, like through my mind's really changed over the last year, based on really as much LinkedIn stuff as I've been doing.
Yeah.
I've had so many conversations with awesome people based on kind of making connections on there. I mean, I met Kyle through LinkedIn, through kind of content we were putting out, and we circled kind of around each other, and we got a couple phone calls, and we're like, dude, we got so much in common, let's do something.
Yeah.
And then we did a podcast, and like, me and you too, Josh, we talked about that. Like, we kind of circled each other on LinkedIn for months probably, and leave a comment here, leave a comment there, see each other, and finally I was like, who is this guy? We got to talk.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think that, and then I get on these calls with people, and like, I'm not getting into it looking for a mentor, but we start talking about stuff, and this is what's going on with me, and they start just kind of give me a little advice, a little bit here, then it, almost like peer groups are really more than anything, because then we kind of a little bit back and forth, and like, I did this on my project, or I did that, and next thing you know, should I say it, a friendship has happened, and now you can have somebody you can call on.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty cool.
It's definitely true, and that's exactly how it happens, man. Like, I mean, you grow these relationships from online, from LinkedIn, and then you convert it into this. You convert it into, I'm walking a job site and we're talking on the phone and we're talking about issues we're having or successes that we had or anything. And I think that's the key piece of this, and what I would really suggest to people is reach out to these individuals, because people are out there that will help you and want to help you, and I think there's some genuine people out there that will help you navigate, because the job can be very isolating, right? Where you, for the most part, you're on an island, you're on your project, you're dealing with your own stuff, and the rest of the world stops. Nothing else exists. And the reality is we're all in that position. We all get in that mindset. So reaching out and finding those mentors or those peer group that you can lean on and grow from, because I think the biggest thing for me is I'm not an engineer, but being able to talk to engineers outside of work and learn how you think and what goes through your mind and how you put things together helps me be a better builder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and all this talk about basically leveraging our LinkedIn resources and networking. I mean, to me, that's the key right there, is networking, because you don't know who you're going to meet that'll connect you with somebody else that is going to have what you're looking for, that's going to help you to get to the next level. I mean, for example, my coach I met through Matt, and Matt, I mean, Alex, when her and I had an introduction, one of the first things she asked me was, all right, how can I help you? Who to connect you with? And those people are out there, and they're awesome. And then through that's how I met Haiti and other people. And it's just like, there's been so many cool connections that have come just from somebody that I wasn't expecting. And that person came from somebody else that I know. You just never know who you're going to meet. And so that's why LinkedIn, even putting yourself out there, going to networking events. Hey, everybody, I'll say it right now, I don't enjoy going to those events very much, but I enjoy meeting people. So that's why I got to do it.
Exactly.
The one thing I liked about LinkedIn is, for me, I've got a full day job, right? And I have a family and I have kids and all these sort of stuff, and it's really difficult for me to get to an in-person networking event. It's just like, I don't have the time in the day between baseball practice and this and that and everything else going on in the world. And plus, like, the project I'm on right now, like, I'm an hour away from Houston, so if there's a happy hour in Houston, and Houston's an hour away from Houston, if you've ever been there, like, it's massive. So it's like, so what I found is, like, being able to network with people through LinkedIn, and you can get a lot further reach faster too, right? I mean, I've actually never shook either one of you guys' hands. Me and Kyle's been doing this for months, and we've never actually seen each other face to face. And like, we became real good buddies. Like, we text all the time, and like, we talk about our own problems that were going on in our lives and projects and business and all this sort of stuff. But we've all met really through the internet, and then it's became like a real friendship.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
I'm tearing up here, Matt.
I'll edit that part out. Don't worry.
No, it's been so awesome. It's like all the limits are gone. I mean, you start to get your network out there. You can literally meet anybody if you just have the right means to do it. I mean, it's just so cool.
And the biggest thing is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like I said earlier, I'm more introverted, but I've become very comfortable with this. I'm still not comfortable with the networking events, but I like to go there and I like to meet new people and do some of that. So once I break the ice, I'm okay. But it's that networking piece. And one more book for you is Who Not How. Have you read that book?
I've heard of it. Who wrote it?
Dr. Benjamin Hardy. So think about this. Okay. Every problem that we encounter, we say, how am I going to solve this? How are we going to get this done? But what if you flip that script and you said, who's going to help me get this done? Who can get this done? right? And you think about networking and leverage and all these other things. If you start saying, this is my problem, who's the answer that can solve this for me? Who knows the answer? And now you start surrounding yourself with other who's, which you already have. You already have your network. Your immediate thought is, how do I do it? Whereas if you say, I got my network, who can do it? Now you're quickly off and running. Like, we had a problem come up this week, personal problem, and the bank was doing something with our financing, and I said, shit, who can I call? Who could I get to come here and invest in this thing and make this thing happen? Like, I didn't even care that the bank said you might be derailed. It was like the last thing on my mind. I was immediately thinking about who was going to help me get out of it. And when people start thinking of who's in their network, the ceiling goes up 10 feet. You just leveled up your entire game with one word. So we talk about the leverage of LinkedIn, talk about the leverage of your network, talk about the leverage of your who's.
That's something me and Kyle's been talking about recently. 100%. That's what me and Kyle have been talking about. Like, it's finally come a realization. Like, I don't have to do everything alone. Like,
nailed it.
That's what we've realized. Like, I mean, just as I probably never would have done this part. I never would have done a podcast if it wasn't for Kyle. But like, he kind of like encouraged me. We kind of encouraged each other. Then we're kind of doing it for each other. You know, here it is.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have done it alone.
But just in so much stuff like that, it's. I finally realized like just the power of networking, and I'm gonna read that book tonight maybe, but that's so cool.
Super easy book, but it blows your mind with how much you can change with just changing how you approach things. And you know, the irony is, when I started my podcast, Feed Me Your Construction Content, I had no interest in doing it on my own. I had some gear and I was like, I want to do this. And I had a buddy in South Carolina who was very similar to you guys, where we were engaging with each other's content. They were like, I've been wanting to do a podcast. I was like, yeah, me too. And it's like, shit, let's do it. And we did it. We created 12 episodes, and then just kind of life got in the way. It became really difficult, and we stopped. And then I wanted to get it going again, and I said, babe, I want to get this podcast going. She's like, yeah, do it. And I was like, no, I want us to get this podcast going. I want you to be my co-host. She's like, I got nothing to add. And I'm like, you got a ton to add, because you're inquisitive and you're curious about what's going on, and you ask great questions. I was like, let's go. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. Now we jump on the mics, and she's like leading the charge. So it's cool stuff with what this medium and all these things can do, and how much we grow from it.
I've now started doing a second podcast. It's Texas A&M rugby based, because I played rugby, and anyway, I'm part of the alumni association, all the alumni group for the rugby team, and all this sort of things. And I was on the board of directors for a while. But anyway, one of my roommates from college, he called me up one day, and he's like, "Hey, I've been seeing this podcast you've been doing. You guys are killing it. You should do a podcast for Texas A&M rugby, and just kind of like interview the current players, the board of directors, the old Maroon board of directors, the coaches, and just kind of, because any sort of organization like that, communication between the alumni and the current students, everyone says like, give us donations, we need money, but it's like, where's our money going? We don't know where it's going. Just that sort of stuff, right? There's complete communication breakdown all the time. So anyway, he called me and he goes, you should do it. And I go, you gonna do it with me? And I completely caught him off guard. He was like, I guess. But I was like, I'll do it with you. Like, I'll handle like the back end stuff, because I know how to do all the hosting and all that sort of stuff. But like, we'll do it together, and you kind of take the lead on the booking the guests and all that sort of stuff. And so now we've done a couple episodes of that, and it's something I never would have done on my own. He would have never done on his own, but because we're doing it together, now we're off the ground running, and I think it's going to be a good resource for the club.
That's awesome. I love hearing that.
We're running up on an hour now. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on in your notes that we didn't get a chance to touch on?
Man, we crushed it. I think we got everything. This was a ton of fun, man. I'm so grateful you guys got me on here. I've never done a live podcast. I hope all the viewers out there enjoyed it. How many are out there?
Kyle's watching.
A couple thousand it looks like.
No, this was a great time, man. I think this was a lot more fun than maybe I expected.
We'll have to do it again. One of these days, we're just going to have to stream it, because this thing can stream to LinkedIn and YouTube and everywhere else. We may just have to flip the stream and switch and just go with it.
That's the way to do it, man. That's the next chapter.
We'll have you on when we do it.
We'll see.
Heck yeah.
We'll see. If we're gonna do it, you gotta do it with us. Didn't we just talk about that? We go further together.
I'm in. There's strength in numbers.
That was a ducks fly together or something, right?
Yeah.
Well, they say if you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together, right?
That's right.
Hey, so Josh, if anybody wants to get in contact with you, or talk to you about consulting or anything like that, how can they get you?
Yeah.
Or buy a house from you, even.
Yeah, even if you want to buy a house in Virginia, though. Like, let's keep it to one of the 50 states.
You can't build me one in Texas?
No, not yet. Easiest way to get me is on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. It's the easiest place to find me, and then all my contact info is in LinkedIn, and send me a message. I'm happy to reply and help you out.
Cool, man. I'll make sure they got your link in the show notes of the podcast.
That'd be awesome.
But appreciate you coming and joining us, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Kyle and Matt. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Josh. Great to meet you. It was a good time. I can't believe we're at an hour.
I know.
I was like, I looked down and it was like 58 minutes. I was like, whoa.
The time went by so quick.
It is. When they're good conversations, they always fly by fast.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, guys. Till next time.
See ya.
All right, we'll see ya.